The positive aspects and the benefits of modularization are not only from the hardware side, from the machinery, from the CBOs and the drives. There are also aspects you have to take into consideration when you're looking at a control system. There we have the possibility to use one control for different types of technology. So this means with one control you can manage operating a robot with tongs, with different tongs, which has also different types of technologies. With this one control you can manage to edit and to monitor a process for clinching, for SPR and for SPR with solid rivet, and additional if you like. By having a wider point of view, there's a conclusion that you definitely need from the tools and from the tongs and from the dies a high flexibility to fulfill the customer's wish, what they like to do inside the application. But the thing that you have to take into your consideration additionally is you have to be very, very unified with the control system and even with the feeding system. And even with the feeding system you can see in a small video. By having a look on the controls that we have, which are very unified, we can get different types of data out of the process. And this data out of the process we use to transfer this data to the customer's process monitoring and also to look how the monitoring and the process works. You can see with that SPR tongue that we have here a hose for the feeding system. There's the possibility at the beginning of this hose to look if a rivet was already blown through, and at the setting head we have also an additional sensor, a vacuum sensor, which tells you if the vacuum value is okay, that the rivet is already feeded inside the setting head, and if this is okay, the process is started. Additional information that you are getting out of the process are coming from the drive system, which tells you inside the engine and the gearbox the distance of the drive and of the punch by itself. And you have also a force sensor at the tongue, which tells you the press force that you have currently. And this is what we need and what we also using for controlling the process by itself and putting back to the customer in its own data collection and process monitoring. Of course, when we do this, you have plenty of information. So this means what to do with this plenty of information. You have a whole data lake, and this is also one keyword that we are facing to, because when we have this data lake, we need a possibility to filter out certain information out of the data lake. So this means there have definitely to be a big data analysis, but this big data analysis have to be combined with an expert system, because you need the knowledge of the expert, you need the knowledge of the designers of the system, and you need also the knowledge of the guys that work daily with the tool systems and with the tongs inside the production area. All these knowledge you can put together to do this deep data analysis. And then you will get answers. For example, is there a change into inside the joint quality, maybe if a batch of material is changed, or you can see some things out of the predictive maintenance aspect. You can do some maintenance when you see there's a change inside the system. And these are all the benefits that we will use in the next years. But these are the further steps that we have to do.